Welcome to another episode of Lifelong Learner. This is the Out of Class edition with Ben, Janesh, and Matt. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Lifelong Learner. Welcome, Matt. Welcome, Ben. How are we all doing this morning?
Really good. Really good. Not as good as Matty, though. Matty's in Lombok.
I'm in Lombok. I am.
How long you been there for?
Though.
How's it going?
I've been here since last Friday. So, what are we now? I've been here about a week, or just over a week. And it's been awesome, but just trying to get a normal life routine. So that's been the current challenge, because I've been coming for so many holidays that it's very easy to slip into holiday mode. So I'm setting boundaries, and it's been a little bit challenging, but surfing every day, twice a day. Oh, it's been fantastic.
So 4 hours of surfing a day, and you're trying not to be on holiday?
6 hours of surfing a day.
That's a good working routine.
Mate, if I'm 5 o'clock, 6, 7, 8. So I'm back at 8 a.m. and then the day starts, right? And at the end of the day, I go out at 3:30 and get back about 6:30. So there are times where you get more time back, because you still haven't really started your day. So it's been really cool. It's the weekends. It's the Friday, Saturday night. My friends all own bars and stuff, so it's very easy to get dragged into those. So avoiding them and disappointing some of the guys. Bobby's like, "Why aren't you coming out?" I can't come out every night, mate. I'm not on holiday anymore. I've got to try and build a routine. So,
Mate, speaking of building, where do I get one of those shirts that makes my biceps look like that?
I know.
For those that are listening, Matt's got this Evolve t-shirt on. Thanks for the sponsorship, Evolve. Evolve t-shirt on, and mate, the sleeves,
they look small, don't they?
Especially stitched, they're tiny.
I think I'm growing.
Yeah, double the little flex there. Mate, impressive physique. Geez. Speaking of physique, I tell you what I've noticed is if you put a little weight on, you can lift heavier at the gym. So my nutritionist about 4 or 5 weeks ago said, "Ben, you're good to go. You're good to eat.
You're good to eat.
You're good to eat. In fact, if you want to do your cortisol some favours, eat." And she said, the more you lower your cortisol levels, the more you're going to feel like eating. She said, your cortisol levels are high, so you're not eating. And because you're not eating, your cortisol levels are high. And it's this vicious cycle. You need to kind of eat a little bit in the morning. It'll help lower your cortisol, particularly before you're going to go work out.
Interesting.
So I've been doing that. 3 kilos I've put on in 5 weeks.
In 5 weeks.
Yeah, but doesn't the high levels of cortisol also makes you hard to lose, right? And it's a high level of cortisol. It leaves that like that side and back kind of flabby. Like that's where there's
the little bit of belly,
and like the back just above your short line is a lot of high cortisol. So interesting that to eat more, you drop your cortisol.
Yeah, she said if you work out in the morning and you haven't eaten, because your cortisol levels are already up in the morning, then you train in the morning, it lifts them even higher. But she said a little bit of food just in the morning helps just buffer that spike of cortisol that you'll get after or during a workout. Because my cortisol was just, I'm not stressed like you, Janesh. We just love what we do, but we have busy days. And like you, Matty.
The 6 hours surfing, it's crazy. Cortisol levels must be through the roof.
We have busy days, and the cortisol level just for me was getting just gradually climbs as the day goes by, and wasn't doing me any favors. So I'm on the anti-cortisol lifestyle at the moment, and it's resulted in 3 kilos.
Mate,
how's that feel, mate?
Yeah.
For those that are listening, Ben's shaking his head. So
yeah. Well, like I said, just training is easier. Lifting weights is easier. Janesh and I, we ran on the weekend. Janesh a little bit more than me, 22 Ks more than me. But it just makes that a little harder though.
Oh, it makes the running harder.
Yeah, the extra 3 kilos. It's like, running with 3 cartons of milk.
I noticed that surfing, right? Like when I got here, I was probably at my heaviest or around my heaviest, 85 kilos. And in the ocean, and I haven't been surfing much, and now I'm surfing every day. And you're surrounded by people that surf every day. So they're incredibly surf fit. And you're trying to keep up with them thinking that you'll be able to. But I'm carrying, I think it's probably about 7 or 8 kilos more than is probably normal or optimum, like just extra muscle, extra fat. And you notice it. Already I've lost about 3-4 kilos and I'm noticing moving through the water a lot easier, way less heavy breathing. So it's really funny. We're playing opposite games.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
I think that there is quite a bit of cortisol through the blood, but it's on off for me. Like when you're paddling out and there's a giant wave coming, that's terrifying. But then there's 10 minutes of chilling out.
Yeah, that is the challenge. There's nothing wrong with a nice spike of cortisol, but
It's
when
like
it just
consistent.
keeps going up and it doesn't drop back down, which not so good, mate. But we've got a topic to talk about today because I've got a topic I'd like to talk about.
Go. Hit us, Ben.
Well, toxic masculinity. Right? But that's not what I want to talk about.
Oh.
I want to talk about beautiful masculinity, about what it is to kind of channel just good, healthy, more than healthy, beautiful, empowering, resourceful. Resourceful for you, resourceful for your family, resourceful for your community. How do we do, or what is beautiful masculinity? Yeah, because I feel, there's so much conversation around toxic masculinity. There's so much conversation around men channeling their feminine. What about good, strong, healthy, beautiful masculinity? What is that?
Got a question for you before we answer that. What's recently sparked that?
Oh, look, I was actually listening to a Rich Roll podcast, and he was interviewing the first male supermodel.
Oh yeah,
Jordan. I'm going to say Pearson or Pedersen.
No, that's a different person. I know which one you're talking about. Oh, I'll get his name while you're talking.
Yeah, and he was he's 57. And so he started his supermodeling stuff, when he was 18.
John Pearson.
John, thank you.
Pearson.
John Pearson. And back when, there was this kind of, he had to channel, masculinity. He had to be the image of what men wanted to look like and what women wanted their man to look like. That was his role, was to be aspirational for the people that saw the ad, right? This is what we see in modern Instagram and Facebook and social media, these people that create an image that is aspirational. They create that tension between where we are and where we like it to see ourselves. And his role was to be how we would like to see ourselves as men, or as I said, how women would like to see their men. That's what sold products. And so there was this conversation around masculinity. And I thought it'd be interesting for us, given our different ages, to kind of have a conversation around what is beautiful masculinity, what is attractive, what is aspirational, particularly for you younger blokes. I'm curious.
Good question.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I think it could take multiple forms, and I think it's interesting now where like beautiful, strong masculinity at times, unfortunately, can be perceived as, oh, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that for me. I can, like, in a female's perspective, potentially, I can do that for myself, type of thing, which is interesting times. I think, like, now it's probably more in the forefront. But for me, I would say it would be like a sense of warm, and that provides like security in a number of forms, right? Like not just, I'm not talking about like financial security. I'm probably talking about more, hey, emotional, like happy to take the lead when need to be, happy to listen. And I think just ability to like play the lines. I think I like play the lines of like there's a bit of banter, but there's not egotistical, right? There's that. I think on the weekend, like we probably saw Ben and I were at an event on the weekend, and I didn't see any ego, but saw some really good like friendship and banter across not just our group, but a bunch of other, like say males, right? Not just, there was males and females at the event, but it was supportive. It was supportive across it. And I think confident on who you are and be okay with that, I think is key. I know I'm probably beating around the bush there, but that's probably where-ish it's at for me.
So what's the difference between then femininity and masculinity? What is the difference then? Because many of those things I would see could be in the feminine energy as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So this masculine energy, this masculine way of being, how would you define that differently? And I hear what you said there too, and I resonated with that as well, that there is this protector kind of role, this safety, this security role that I think we have in masculine energy. What else would you define? Masculine, beautiful masculine. Matty?
I feel like a big part of it stems from what you were saying, protection. So strength, and strength manifests in my mind in a real beautiful masculine way as the almost gentle. It's the opposite. It's like when you're incredibly strong, you don't have to prove to anyone you're strong. So you actually take on the opposite role, which is soft, gentle, because there's no, as Janesh said, you have confidence in you're not proving anything to anyone. It's so it's almost the opposites come out, and I feel like what we see is so much of toxic is just that fake surface stuff. It doesn't have the depth coupled with it. So that's why we live in a world where it's all about material and the external. And so without that gentle, really nurturing, because in my mind, I base this on my father, my grandpa, they were strong men, but they also had that gentle side. And I feel like that's part of a protector too, is to have that capacity. And it almost means more when it comes from something that isn't meant to be capable of it. You know what I mean? Like if something's fierce and, a protector, think of a lion, you wouldn't expect it to be capable of nurturing a cub. But a real man can, because they're completely in touch with their strength and their vulnerability. So I feel like that's a big component of healthy masculinity, is a massive amount of strength that comes out as the opposite, soft, gentle. If needed, a switch flicks and fucking warrior comes out and all things are destroyed in the pursuit of protection. But there's not that, you don't have to project it. So I feel like that's a big part of it. And I think that women are capable of that as well. Don't get me wrong. Don't get in the way in between, a child and a mother. But I think there's a next level with a man, that they have the capacity to literally destroy anything that gets in between them and their family, for example. I feel like that's a big component.
What about you, for you, Ben? What is
Yeah.
beautiful masculinity? How would you define it?
And it's a good. That was my question to both of you, and I guess it's a question I ask because I'm it's there's a. I feel like some years ago it was quite easy to define, and I feel like as the world is changing, it kind of seems it's a little harder to define. For me, I feel. From what both of you said, there is this strength, and as we both said, there's a real strength to the feminine energy, but it's a different kind of strength. I remember Elwyn, who was the owner of Delhunty previous to the summit, and Elwyn said that a child needs its mother for the first 7 years, and only its mother. It just needs a mother. It needs to be nursed, cuddled. It needs somewhere to go to where it, falls over, come to mum, I'll put a Band-Aid on it. That's what it.
I think we lost Ben for a bit.
I was like, I didn't want to say anything in case it was me.
That was the punchline, ready for it. So I think where Ben was going with that, because we're still recording here, is 0 to 7, a mother. And then after that needs a father or father figure equivalent, right? So I'm not saying that doesn't.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the secret to health, wealth, and happiness. Oh, did I drop out during the key?
Mate, you cut out, and I tried to fill in the blanks, but I just said after 7 is when you need a father or a father figure equivalent, and you are just coming right now to tell us the reasons.
Yeah, so you need a father almost exclusively, right? And I think, and that happens because the child's been nurtured for the first 7, protected. And now it's time for the father to take the child and give them the rough and tumble, prepare them for what is to come, after they move into adulthood. And there's this rough and tumble and more physical play and the more edginess maybe that comes with a masculine energy, that testosterone component that men have and masculine energy has. And then he said the last 7 from 14 through to 21 is a mixture of both mother and father. But the father has a really important role from that 7 to 14 period. And that really resonates with me. And I think that's really true for how we've raised our kids, was that there is this kind of really nurturing and protecting first 7 years when the child is vulnerable, and then time to take the child and give them some rough and tumble. And I think that would probably be reflected in most Indigenous cultures. When we look at ancient times, there was a time for the child to then go out and to explore the world. And of course, as we know, it wasn't that long ago, 100-ish years ago, that by the time you were 14, you were in the workforce. You were working. My dad, he was working at 14 years of age.
Mate,
so
there's not too long ago that you were working like when you were really young. Like in Indonesia, kids 5, 6, 7, you know what I mean? Like if you go back to traditional hunter-gathering times, everyone was working the moment you could. When you were speaking, it kind of made me go, yeah, that's right. That. It's almost like in those early years, using your model, mum first, it's the nurturing, it's the safety, it's the forming the bond of trust, stability. It's the lower hierarchies, in the Maslow's hierarchy, that the lower parts of the pyramid. And then it feels like when you start to build that relationship with, dad, which what you're saying seems to ring true with my young friends who have young families. The dad saying it's quite challenging for them in those early stages, but around 3, 4, they start really starting to enjoy it. They get some banter, they can do things together. it feels like courage, resilience, strength, ability to adapt comes from the physical play, which often happens with dad, the falling over, get back up, the running around, as you said, rough and tumble. A lot of the learning happens through play there, whereas the learning with the mum comes through that nurturing, that connection side, that emotional intelligence side. And it seems to be, yeah, definitely that there's an aspect to men teaching those things to their children, courage, keep going, never give up. What do you think, Janesh? Did that stand out for you too when Ben was speaking? There's something there around that teaching component coming from dad.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I would say it's a you're the ideally, or for me, I can say for me as a father, I want to be the role model that for my daughters, that what sort of men for her to be around
what is that? What is that?
Comfortable, honest, strong, and inviting. So not the hey, not the old school masculinity of going, hey, I'm a man, I can do this, and you're a woman, you can't do this. Like a hey, it's like a very inclusive. It's funny because Sarah plays in a mixed soccer team, and I'm like, and she hasn't said it in a while, but I used to hear but they're boys. I'm like, so what? Right? There shouldn't be any difference in the playing, right? In terms of, and I actually find that she does better in a mixed team than an all girls team. She levels up in a mixed team than an all girls team. She probably levels down in an all girls team. Doesn't play as hard. Doesn't have as much rough and tumble. Doesn't go as hard to the ball. So there's a healthy part there.
So, mate, I'm curious, what is the difference between an all girls team and a mixed team?
I think the overall energy.
Which is what? You're saying that there's what I'm hearing you say is there's boys in the mixed team. There's boys that are moving. They're beyond 7 years of age. They're moving into that. Mm-hmm. So what age range are we talking about?
Under 12s. So they're 10, 11, 12, right?
Yep. So they're starting to develop. They're starting to bring in their masculinity. And so what is the difference? What are they bringing when they play versus when an all-girls team plays? What is the level up?
There's more across the board go-getter attitude. There's no hesitation in that. As in an all-girls team, I would say, again, not all, but say more than a mixed team, there would be a bit of hesitation, a bit of I'm not sure. You take a first-year male player, boys, right? So we have a lot of first-year players. And you have a first-year girl, right? And there's for some reason there's two different attitudes, right? To it. The first-year boy, first training session might be a bit nervous, and then by second or third, he's in there. First-year girl player, as I'm making it very broad here. It might be halfway through the season that she comes into her groove, right? And if you have that coupled by 7, 8 to 10 players, it's harder for them to go, oh, I am comfortable. I can actually get dirty. I can actually run hard. You know what? I can keep up. As opposed to, you know what? It's it's not male or female. Well, they're all players, and let's level everyone up. And I think there's that difference. And then so I'm coaching this year, and there's no difference. We don't treat the female players or the male players any different. It's you're all players, and it's how do we foster that early But there is a difference, mate. There's a real big difference. And as a parent, I would rather, if there was an all girls team, I probably wouldn't want Sai to play in that. I would rather to play in a mixed team now and then an all girls team later. Like say under 17s or a women's team, sure. Like so you look at
why an all girls team later?
Oh mate, I'll give you. So after our training, the all girls there's no all girls team at the club we play. There's an under 17s. Under 17 / women's team, right? And they are like strong females. Like, so I will do a lap like after our training and they're kind of warming up and they're like, they'll give anyone a run for their money. Like you can tell they've had that rough and tumble years and they're not scared. They're comfortable. And they're there to play. They're not there to just pussyfoot around. Which you don't see in some of the in those younger years. So I think there's a benefit in the mixed teams in the younger years for sure, because you see a difference. Like those, I'm like, those are like strong females, and they're like 17, 18, 19, and you know that when they're watching them train, you're like, right, they're here to train. They're not here to just be hesitant or whatever at the ball.
Matty, go.
There's definitely something in this, like biological / psychological. There's something in the way that men and women are different, and we see patterns surfacing in sport. Like you said, hesitation. Girls hesitate before they act, whereas boys traditionally don't. They don't think, they act. Like they fail first, think about it after. Girls tend to plan first to mitigate failure, right? Which sometimes can look like hesitation. Like in surfing, for example, young guys for a launching out of the wave. And girls are starting to do this now as the culture changes. But it seems to come more naturally to boys to just throw caution into the wind and go. And whereas girls seem to be more planned. And I think where it gets toxic is when we compare them and say that they should be the same. They shouldn't be the same. That's like saying everyone should be the same. That's the problem with school. When we put everyone in a classroom, we say you're all the same. You learn the same subjects. No, I think that we should honor the fact that boys are good at some things and girls are good at some things. And when you put them together, they teach each other or they rub off on each other the skills that each other possess. Boys are really bold. And so, you have a mixed team of football players at a very young age, and the girls and the boys together learn to just fail, go for it, try. And you end up with a better boy team and a better girl team, because the girls also teach, slow it down, think before you act, coupled with this, courageousness. So I feel like hearing you speak, Janesh, about how it's best to have them together, I really think that makes sense. But it doesn't mean that when they're together, there's not obvious strengths that the boys have and the girls have. I'm sure you'd be able to see it. What do you think?
Well, I think, there's that the yin and the yang, that symbol. The black has a white dot and the white has a black dot. That within the masculine there is some feminine energy, but not a lot of it. And within the feminine there is a dot of masculine energy, but not a lot of it. And that we can choose to tap that part. I don't know what it makes up in the dot. What is it, 5-10% of that side of the yin and the yang? But we can tap that 10% when we need to, bring our feminine. The feminine can tap that masculine component and bring that when they need to. But I think what we're talking about, and I think we're all talking about, for those that are listening and that might be getting their heckles up, put them back down again, is we're talking about the normal. We're talking about the majority. We're talking about the standard of masculinity, not the outliers, not the person that is a male that has masculinity, but also has a larger dot of feminine energy. And that's okay, but we're talking about what is masculine energy? What is that? And it's clearly more risk-taking. You know, I love that. And if you haven't Googled it, and we'll put it in the show notes, what is it called? Is it the man with two brains? It's the preacher, and he has the two brains, the feminine, the female brain and the male brain. Have you seen that, Maddie? Game changer. So viewers, listeners, you've got to watch this. It'll be in the show notes. It's the tale of two brains, I think, Janesh, if you're Googling it. The tale of two brains. And it's a preacher, and he talks about the difference between the male brain and the female brain. It is classic. It is just classic. I've never shown it to anybody, male or female, where they haven't gone, absolutely, this guy's got it. He's nailed it. He talks about, for example, the male brain has these separate drawers, and that as a male, you go into the one drawer. You open that drawer, and you do the thing what's in that drawer. And then you close that drawer and you open another drawer. Women don't have drawers. They've just got this big closet. And when they go in, it's everything's connected to everything else. The kids are connected to the money, and the money's connected to the car, tire that needs to be blown up, and the tire that needs to be, pumped up is connected to the milk that they've got to buy the shopping with. And, it's all connected. Whereas men, we just have a tire drawer. We just have a shopping drawer.
Which makes sense. Like, this is what, if we go back in time and we think about hunter-gatherers, for thousands of years we operated a certain way. Men went out and hunted animals. Women went into fields and gathered berries. They need to be incredible and have diffused awareness. Be aware of everything in a space in 1 second, and also hyper-aware of any potential threats. That's why, they know that they had to learn the right color of the berries as well. The shade was super important because there were some that looked similar, but one would kill you. You know what I mean? So they're notice details that we just can't. Whereas we didn't need to notice anything other than it moves, kill it. So, and that manifests today in the real world. Whereas, exactly as you said, men often need to focus on one task at a time. So if I have a to-do list and there's 15 things on it, I go through them one at a time, like you said, each drawer. If I can't do it, I get incredibly frustrated, and I have this internal battle where I struggle with the concept of letting go, because it's number 3 on the list. I can't do number 4 until I've done number 3, because I'm an efficient hunter-gatherer. Whereas Kat, she can do 10 things on the list in one go. And it blows me away. And when I watch her do it, I'm like, dude, you need to learn to focus. What are you doing? You're all over the place. But actually, she, in her own way, is still collecting berries. Her to-do list, she does it a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one. She can do 10 jobs, 10% of each one, and at the end of the day, have it all done. That would do my head in. I have to do it, as you said, one drawer at a time. And these things, they exist. And I think at times we pretend that they don't. Men and women think differently.
What do you think currently there's more, say, in media, right, more toxic masculinity displayed? And it's like when you buy a new car, right? You buy a new car and then all of a sudden you start seeing this new car everywhere, right? We're seeing toxic masculinity on social media a lot, and people are seeing it more. Why? One, why? And why isn't it healthy masculinity?
Because it's harder to show healthy masculinity because it's internal. I think, you know what I mean? Social media is all about the external.
I'm curious, how do you know that we're showing toxic masculinity on social media?
Oh, you hear it? You hear it? We see it?
Like where?
On your Instagram, on your Facebook, across your TikTok. And it's like, again, as we talk.
What are you defining as toxic masculinity? What does that look like?
I don't know if it's toxic
like the
masculinity. toxicity though, maybe.
Yeah, true. It's
You know
just
what I
that
mean? But
like misogynist like male figures that make it is the outliers, as you said, Ben. It's the outliers that unfortunately put a lot of men in a bucket, in a hole, and you're like, no, we're not all like that. But then other people are like, no, you are, and like strong females like, nah, like most men are, and I'm like, nah, look, I don't think most men are. Like this is
men online are maybe,
yeah, but
you know what I mean?
This is the outlier, and they go, oh, but this industry's like that. I'm like, but that's on the surface. Well, like, are they really like that? I don't know, and I don't know if it's they're putting them in this box, and there's no like champion, so to speak, or enough champions. I don't think for like healthy masculinity, right? Healthy masculinity and healthy. But having said that, there's more and more now. I still don't think enough, like men's mental health groups, right? To promote that, because that healthy masculinity would be like, hey, you can talk about that. You can. But the unresourceful, the toxic ones, like, no, I don't have those problems. No, I'm a man. I don't have that. And you're like, oh, that's not really healthy for anyone, for yourself or the people around you.
I think it's just that where we're seeing it is a toxic environment. It's a toxic marketplace. Do you know what I mean? Like lies sell faster than the truth. Everyone's marketing and selling a lie. And so we sell, the things that sell are themselves toxic. And then people then identify them and say that's toxic masculinity. Yeah, it is. It's on social media, because anything that isn't toxic doesn't sell. No one wants to fucking hear a man talk about his feelings and say, I'm struggling. That's not going to fucking sell anything. So they put this idea of whatever his name is. I'm just going to throw out a name. Andrew Tate, who's really well-spoken, charismatic, but talks absolute shit and drives $1 million car. And every young man goes, oh, I want to be like him on the external, based on what he looks like, what he drives, what he owns. Because no one wants to fucking sell kind, caring, compassionate, strong, gentle, fucking, you know what I mean? So I wonder if it isn't that it's toxic masculinity. It's just toxicity, drama. And we constantly sell that shit. And then people turn around and go, that's another example of toxic masculinity.
Matty, gold. I think that's gold, what you just said. Because I think about my community. I don't know about your communities, but I don't know, based on my definition of whatever toxic masculinity might be, I don't have any of that in my world. No one I know, no one in my community. No. And I think about my broader community. I think about the patients that we have coming into the practice. I think about my coaching clients. I just see healthy, beautiful masculinity around me. And so I wonder whether that's exactly right. The only place we find toxic femininity, toxic masculinity are in these toxic environments, which is social media, this pretend kind of world that's out there, this virtual world that's kind of, it's just not real as we know.
And I think in our communities, I think they they won't last, right? You come across some people, you go, oh, and I'm pretty honest and brutal. I'm like, oh, I won't say it to their face, but mate, like, you're a knob. And I go, you're not my people. And that is okay. I'll be pleasant, I'll be nice, but you're not my people. Nice to meet you, but you're not in my circle. You're not in my circle, you're not in my community. And I think we don't see it, we don't have anyone in it because we don't, I don't think we allow it. We don't allow it and we're not attracted to it. And if it comes our way, it's like, oh, okay, cool, see you later. Like it's kind of touch and go, passing by. They're not there to stay. Which is interesting.
Isn't that funny that you wouldn't do that to your actual group in the real world? You wouldn't bring in some douchebag like that or some complete bitch like that because it causes drama, pain, suffering. You lose respect for yourself, and you're constantly wondering whether they're going to talk shit about you. So there's no trust. Yet on social media, they're the ones that we're watching. You know what I mean?
They're the ones that are getting all the views.
They're getting all the likes and all the views. And I think
the challenge is, and why people are afraid of these guys, is because we have a whole range of females growing up without a proper feminine role model. We have a stack of males that are growing up without a proper masculine role model. And so that the model for what it is to be a beautiful masculine energy isn't there. It's a void. It's empty, waiting to be filled. And this is, again, just the important role that fathers play in raising their child, based on what I talked about, from 7 to 14, and the important role that mothers play in raising a child between 0 and 7, showing the child what it is to have feminine energy, showing the girl and the boy what feminine energy looks like. And for the ages of 7 to 14, we're making those numbers up, but let's pretend that's true, for the girl and for the boy, what it is to see and experience healthy masculine energy. And so that when the extremists on either side come to the front, the extremists in the feminine and the extremists in the masculine, our children just don't even notice that because their cup is already full. They already understand what that model needs to look like. This is the role of parents. It's so important.
Can't fall prey to thinking that that's, something that they want to copy. If you've got 7 years, those 14 years, I would add in another 7. 7's the magic number. The next 14, so 14 to 21, is your community. Your community is in the child's community. They're leaving their parents and they're moving into, building their own friendship groups. Belong is super important from 14 to 25, for everyone, but hyper important for young people. Then they need to be surrounded by their own peers who are, healthy role models, healthy masculine and feminine, which has been set up by the 14 years. So now they're working it out together, but they've got really well balanced masculine and feminine energy, so they can make mistakes together and work it out. And those beliefs are already instilled.
And I think even after that, just bridging what you said there, Matt, like after like 21, so when you're leaving parents, that's even more important because you're not looking to your parents as your role models much anymore. It's who is your circle, who are you hanging around with, and subconsciously or consciously, who are they looking up to, male or female, right? If you've got, say, a strong female in your network and you're a female, but you've got this knob of a guy there, you're like, oh, is that your role model? Is that what your picture, what a man is, what a man should be, right? Is that your circle? Is that how, and also how they treat each other, right? I think after that, it's like that community of that, probably 18 nowadays when they kind of after they leave school and they're not looking to their parents much. It's like, who is that? And how are you looking at how they treat each other is probably how they shape some of their views. It's like, all right, I've grown up with family, grown up with brothers and sisters, and then go, okay, now, but the outside world, is that congruent? Is that a match? And who is in that community? And I think I thought about it on the weekend. Like there's multi-generations on the weekend that we're hanging out with, and it was everyone was very similar, right? We were all like looked to each other for different things, but it was all like it felt good and it felt community. And I'm aware that not everyone has that. You might have a weekend away and you're like, oh, there is like a not so great feminine energy or not so great masculine energy, but that is the norm in their world. Right. So, but then again, that's that role model, right? You go, oh, that's how you treat them. That's how you do that. Like, which is fascinating. That is important too, to have. I'm just going to go straight into my takeaway, but look at who's in your circle and who's a potential role model for that healthy, beautiful, strong masculinity, and that courageous, nurturing, strong feminine energy. Who's your role model in your circle? In your circle and or external, right? So yeah, look at someone on social media or follow someone or whatever, just take stock. Take stock of that and go, is that really who you want to become? Yeah, because I don't think we intentionally take stock of that enough. Fellas, what are your takeaways?
Yeah, I would say it's so important that for us as parents that we be aspirational, that we be the example that our kids want to aspire to. I think the challenge, Janesh, is with if we look at someone on social media who's bringing toxic femininity or toxic masculinity, you only know that it's toxic because it's not who you are. Because if you are that,
it's not toxic.
Then that doesn't look toxic. In fact, it just reinforces that you're right around what it is to be masculine or feminine. So it is a bit of a challenge that those extremists just reinforce the opinion of the boy or the girl who has not had.
It's like you don't know. It's like you don't know what you don't know.
Correct. Yeah. So it's really, really tricky. But I think what it does, what it means is for the majority of us, the majority of the men and the women out there that are wanting to bring it is really bring it. Be really authentic. Be really in your feminine. Be really in your masculine in a really beautiful way. Don't dilute it based on the crap that's out there in 2023. Really bring your feminine. Really bring your masculine. And so there is this real contrast that is created for those at the edge of the bell curve, and it gives them something maybe to think about. Maddie?
Yeah, I think just coupled with that what we were saying is that in our actual worlds, in our reality, not virtual reality, we're surrounded by incredible, for us, but I would wonder whether everyone is. In your real world, you've probably got incredible role models around, incredible masculine, feminine, you've got your tribe, you've got your community, and I bet they're really good role models. I think most of our problems stem from online. And if we're aware when we're online that, this isn't probably the place where I'm going to learn what a great man is and a great woman is, then we somewhat shield ourselves from, the drama associated with it. Know it for what it is. It's crap. It's like going to McDonald's, and we all do it. We all like to have a little bit of McDonald's every now and again, but you don't feed on it. You don't eat it every single day. If you do, you're going to fucking die. And it's the same with social media. If you're going there searching for, I want to find a real man, don't go on fucking social media because they're not there. Real men are in the real world. Anyone who's super famous, generally speaking, with millions and millions of likes will come from some kind of toxic environment. It's just the way it is. And so,
except for Tom Cruise, mate. Except for Tom Cruise.
So my thing would be get into the real world and make real relationships. And and maybe the people who are really healthy role models need to remind each other that we are and start putting some content online to dilute some bullshit that's out there. So there are more, positive role models.
Mate, can I say too, the more I step into my masculinity, and it's hard to define, but I just, whenever I do that better, my wife steps way more into her feminine and our relationship is better. But when I try and bring the feminine and she then, tries to, there's this mixed match of feminine and masculine, and neither of us know who we are. And, there's less attraction. The more I'm in the positive and she's in the negative, the more the two get sucked together like magnets. Yeah, the more I'm in my masculine, the more she's in her feminine, the more we get attracted together. Don't try and be everything to everyone. Otherwise, you're nothing to no one. Be in your masculine, be in your feminine, and you'll become very attractive to other males, and you'll become very attractive to other females. Most importantly, your partner. So good chat today, guys. A bit more serious. Not as many laughs as normal. but I thought maybe it'd be good just to, given what's going on out in the world there, to have that bit of a conversation today.
That's important. It is super important, because I don't think there's enough of these conversations happening on the daily, weekly, monthly, and people don't actively source that. They go, oh, who do I look to? Who do I do that? And what?
I'll tell you who you look to.
And what is that?
Lifelong learners.
You should, right? Yeah. Should.
Beautiful males, just beautiful masculine energy. Beautiful masculine energy. And look, in the show notes, guys, for sure, check out The Tale of Two Brains. That's what it is. It is definitely a very short 10-minute YouTube. Watch it with your partner, and you'll laugh at the truth behind it.
Yeah, I love it.
So good.
Thanks again, fellas and
Thanks,
listeners. Till next time. See ya. .com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter, where you'll be the first to know when new podcast episodes are coming out. And if you want to say hello, tell us a joke, or ask us a question, send us an email at hello@lifelonglearnerpodcast.com. Thanks again.